guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my best books of 2021 video. So this is the start of my end of the year. I guess it's kind of the end of my end of the year content. I don't know. I don't really have much of a plan for this, but I am going to talk about the best books that I read so far in 2021. I say so far because I'm still trying to cram 6 books into the last 3 days of this month. We'll see how well that works out for me, but it is the attempt that I'm going to make. But as of right now, these are going to be the best 5 books that I've read over the last year. So I'm going to be talking about 5 different books that each I consider to be in my top 5 of the year, starting from the bottom of the list and working to the top. So the very first book that I'm going to talk about that is at the bottom of my list, but definitely still one of my favorite reads of the year, is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. Now, Leviathan Wakes is written by an author duo, Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank. One of them, I believe, or maybe both, are like apprentices or they studied under George R.R. Martin. Honestly, take from that what you will, but the fact that this author duo made it such a cohesive and entertaining sci-fi space opera that I absolutely fell in love with from the very first page is awesome. I couldn't tell that it was written by 2 authors. It felt absolutely seamless. The storyline was gripping. If you've heard of The Expanse, obviously you've heard of this book. A lot of people have been talking about it, and I mean, and they should be, because this is such a good read. It was so fast-paced, it was so entertaining. I know that a lot of people don't feel that way about this first book in the Expanse series, but honestly, switching between Holden and Miller and their 2 perspectives as they were trying to figure out what was going on and what happened to Julie Mao and all of that stuff, what happened to Holden's ship, everything. It was gripping from page 1. I was one of those people that started the Expanse TV show before I read the book, and I couldn't really get into the TV show at first. It took me probably 3 or 4 tries. I started reading the book and all of a sudden it was like a switch had flipped and I was invested. I started watching the TV show as I read the book and it just made the experience so much better for me. Now, don't get me wrong, I do actually believe that I like the second book in the series, Caliban's War, just a little bit more than Leviathan Wakes because I enjoyed the characters that were brought into Caliban's War so much. Leviathan Wakes just is the one that kicked off my love of the series and it got me back into the TV show, and I always am going to enjoy this one for that reason just a little bit more. So Leviathan Wakes, I mean, all of these still got 5 stars from me because obviously they're my top reads of 2021. Leviathan Wakes, if you haven't checked out the Expanse series, definitely give it a shot. Book number 4 on my list may not come as a surprise because I raved about it when I read this back over the summer, and that is Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. There are many people all over BookTube that are talking about this book, and it is so well deserved. It is about 2 friends who are learning to become dragon riders. One of the friends is from a highborn family that was all murdered in the midst of the revolution as they were overtaken. The other is from a kind of serf-like faction of people who is getting her chance to rise up and prove herself and make something of herself by being a dragon rider. She doesn't really know about his history or the fact that his father technically is the reason that her entire family is dead, but their friendship perseveres and they kind of grow to fall in love with each other, and honestly, it was such a great story from beginning to end. I haven't read the second one yet, but I absolutely want to. This book made me cry in public, which is not something that I can say has happened very often, if ever. I usually manage to keep my shit together while I am in public amongst other people. This was not the case. I just loved Annie and Lee. I loved the depth of everything that they were put through. It was definitely a very heavy topic, everything that they had gone through all the way up until this point and were still going through, the choices that they had to make. It was incredible, honestly. I don't really have another way to say it. If you haven't checked out Fireborn by Rosaria Munda, give it a shot, especially if you love dragons and you love like political machinations and all of that. It's just, it was so good. I definitely need to move on to book 2. I'm going to be making it a priority in the next year because I need to find out what happens to them next. Book 3 should be coming out soon as well, so look forward to that if you haven't started the series already. The third book on this list is also going to come as no surprise, but that would be The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynn. First of all, this cover. It needs to be appreciated and observed and just, it's glorious. but the storyline on the inside is just as good. It takes all of the things that I think were a little bit weak about the Faithful and the Fallen series and just improves upon them. This isn't going to be about the Faithful and the Fallen series, but in my opinion, in this one, John Gwynn has taken the things that was kind of the weakest to me about the Faithful and the Fallen, which is the multiple points of view, and pared it down to just 3. So you follow Orca, who is a mother that is on a mission of vengeance as she is trying to recover her son who has been kidnapped. You follow Varg, who is a former slave who has joined a bunch of mercenaries that are accepting him as one of their own. And you follow Elvar, who is also a part of a different band of mercenaries, and things are not quite what they seem with that particular band, or any of them, really. It's so good. If you haven't read it and you like anything Norse or Viking related, it's definitely worth a shot. I enjoyed every single one of these storylines. The ending of this absolutely blew my mind. I did not see it coming. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. And it was just great from beginning to end. The magic system, the mythology, everything about this book was top notch. I can't wait for book 2. I will say, if looking at this book, you see the gigantic dragon on the cover and think, ooh, dragons, I'm going to like it, that might not necessarily be the case, just because the dragon is a very, very tiny part of the story and only comes into play at the very, very end. It's definitely a lot more character focused on everything that the 3 of them are going through to get to the end point, but yeah, definitely give Shadow of the Gods a shot. I know that a lot of people that didn't like The Faithful and the Fallen really enjoyed this. I do enjoy both of them, but yeah, Shadow of the Gods, top tier. The next book that I wanted to talk about is actually a novella, and that is Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. I didn't know this at the time, but after having read it, I found out that it won a Hugo Award, and it definitely deserved it. The Emperor's Soul is one of those novellas, and this is not something that happens to me very often, but honestly, I'm still thinking about it, and it's been about 3 weeks. This book follows a girl whose name I think is Shay or Shy. I'm not really sure how it's pronounced. She's considered a forger, and she is also considered a thief, I suppose, and she has been captured as she is trying to steal something from the Emperor's palace, and instead of immediately murdering her as she expects them to do, they actually imprison her and swear her to secrecy and tell her that an accident has befallen the Emperor as a part of an assassination attempt, and they actually need her to rewrite his soul because he is in a coma and cannot be woken up. So in this world, the magic system is, first of all, as a preface, this is technically the same world as Elantris, if you have read that before. But it is a completely different country. The magic system, while a little bit similar, is definitely different. It involves drawing symbols and creating stamps to change the soul of a person or an object, or to rewrite the soul of a person or an object. And by doing this, it can change reality by changing the history of an object, for example, by changing the paint color in a room or the structure of when it was built, and it therefore affects how it is presented now. But it also affects people's souls, where if you learn why they are the way that they are, you can change little bits of their history and rewrite that aspect of their personality, I guess you could kind of say. So she has been recruited to rewrite the Emperor's soul and to make him as he exactly was before, if possible, but just to make it so that he is up and walking around because he is comatose and they don't know if he will ever wake. So she begins I believe they only give her 3 months, a 3-month-long journey of learning absolutely everything she can about the Emperor's past and his present and his relationships and everything, so that she can accurately rewrite his soul and he can be up and walking around. It was so good. I only read it audibly. I need a copy of it, and I believe it's in Arcanum Unbounded. I haven't grabbed that yet, but I just want to reread it over and over and over again, because the entire philosophy behind what makes a person who they are, or what about their history influences their decisions in the future, it was a really fascinating take on something that I had not really given much thought to before, and I loved every single second of it. Talking about it now, want to reread it already, and it's only been 3 weeks. So this was definitely one of my favorite reads of the year. I really, really hope that Brandon Sanderson plans on expanding upon it because I need so much more than what we got in that novella. And then finally, the last book that I wanted to talk about is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is my top book of the year, hands down. This book, once I started reading it, I could not put it down. This book is another book that I have not been able to stop thinking about since I read it back in, I think, June, I want to say. I need more of this. This is a book that I wish that I could go back and experience from the very beginning again because I adored it so much. This book follows Ryland Grace, who is technically a high school science teacher, middle school science teacher, who has been kind of co-opted into trying to save the world. He's a former university-level researcher whose theories kind of got him kicked out of academia, and therefore he became a middle school science teacher instead. And because of all of his research, once the inciting event happens, he has been conscripted into trying to solve the issues because of what his specialties were when he was in research. So essentially, there is something called an astrophage, and it is killing the energy of the sun, and that is bad for humanity, very obviously, but they can't figure out what is doing it, why it is happening, or anything like that, and they need to in order to try and save the human race on Earth. The book actually starts with Ryland Grace already in space. He is in space, but he doesn't know why he's there. His people that he traveled in his spaceship with are dead, long dead, and he has been woken up out of his traveling-induced coma that they put him in so that he could travel to wherever he is going, but without any of his memories. So you kind of experience the timelines concurrently. You experience the timelines of him traveling through space, trying to figure out where he is, how he got there, what he is supposed to do from now on, and you're experiencing his timeline as the events unfolded in the past that got him to where he is. Now, this is not necessarily something that I always enjoy, but the way that it is presented as though he is recovering his memories and trying to remember the things that happened to him that got him to this point was so good, because you're discovering these things as he's discovering them, and that made it so suspenseful and entertaining, and Ember came to visit because that's what she does. Honestly, it made the experience so much better. I loved every second of this book. I loved the thing that happened halfway through. All I'm going to say is rocky, and if you have read it and you know what I'm talking about, then you will understand why, because that part was delightful. I fell into the camp where I loved the ending. I know that not a lot of people also enjoyed the ending, but honestly, I could go on about this book for days because of how much I loved every single second of it. I enjoyed The Martian as well. The Martian was one of my favorite books for a very long time because of the experience that I had when I was reading it, and Project Hail Mary has far and away replaced that because this book is so good. The science in it was as accurate as one could make it, which is very good for me because I am a scientist, and that kind of thing, if incorrect, does tend to bother me. But nope, I loved every second of it. I know that it was a little bit science heavy for some people, but if that is something that you like, then definitely give this a shot because, God, it was so good. The friendships that were built in this were so good. It is making me want to just stop filming right now and reread it right now. So, that is how I feel about Project Hail Mary, and if you haven't given it a shot yet and you like science fiction with an element of mystery and a kind of friendship, found family type element, this is definitely for you. So that's it for my top 5 books of 2021. I had honestly been thinking about combining this into one video, my best and my worst, but looking at how long I've been talking now, I think that that was probably a better idea for me to split it. I adored every single one of these books. If you guys have read any of them, definitely talk to me about them in the comments. If you haven't, I recommend them, every single one of them. Please, for the love of God, read them and talk to me about them. But other than that, that is it for my best books of 2021. Like always, I'll have all of them linked down in the description box down below, and while you're down there, don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Also, down in the description box, you're going to find my Unplugged book box rep code, which is for 5% off of any of their subscriptions. That'll be good until February. And you'll see my Book of the Month affiliate link down there, as well as links to my Goodreads, my Twitter, and my Instagram, in case you guys wanted to follow me on any of those. But other than that, that is it for me today, guys, so I will talk to you in my next video. Bye!